When Louis was accompanying his first love for a prenatal checkup, I was alone, making an appointment to terminate my pregnancy. We locked eyes. I smiled. What a coincidence. Later, I wished them a lifetime of happiness, but he wasn't pleased. Louis, the familiar name, made me catch my breath and look up sharply. Not far away stood a man and a woman, facing each other. The woman was gently beautiful, with a slight bulge in her abdomen. The man was tall and striking. It was my husband, Louis, whom I had married just a month ago. My mind went blank at that moment. I quickly hid around the corner, and by the time my brain started working again, they were too far away to hear. She was pregnant. Louis's beloved was pregnant. He was there for her prenatal checkup. Such a harmonious and beautiful scene. A baby should be born into the expectations of both parents. I gently rubbed my abdomen. After a while, I went to the other side of the clinic. The nurse said that the procedure to terminate the pregnancy required a family member's signature. I kept a firm hand on my belly. No need. I can be responsible for my own uterus. I have the right to decide whether to give birth. I signed my name and went out to wait. I heard Wendy's voice approaching. I haven't had any morning sickness. Maybe the baby is just too good. They are here to repay me. I turned my head. Louis and Wendy were walking side by side. Louis was holding a bag, probably Wendy's things. We locked eyes. He paused for a moment, seemingly surprised to see me there. I stood up and smiled. What a coincidence. Louis's expression quickly returned to normal. What are you doing here? His voice was low and indifferent. I just smiled and asked back, what about you? Picking up some stuff. Are you done? He asked. I still have to wait a bit. Then I'll be off. Louis said this and walked past me. Wendy nodded at me with a soft smile and followed Louis. I sat back down. The plastic chair was cold. Eventually, I ended up on the operating table, the overhead light shining down on me. I closed my eyes, feeling hot tears spill down my cheeks. By the time I left the hospital, night had fallen. I called for a car to take me back to our new house. The maid told me Louis had been home for a while and was waiting for me to have dinner. I had no appetite. I just wanted to sleep. I told the maid I wasn't eating and headed up the stairs. The maid followed me, worried. Madam, you look unwell. Should I call a doctor? I forced a smile. I'm fine, just tired. I'll be better after some sleep. Please, let me know if you need anything. I'll call the doctor, the maid insisted from behind. I acknowledged her concern, went upstairs, and entered my room. I washed my face and brushed my teeth. I skipped the shower and ignored my skincare routine, coming out of the bathroom quickly. Louis came in, looking me over, not feeling well. Should I call a doctor? No need. I'll feel better after some sleep. I walked to the bed and pulled back the covers. Louis followed, watching me silently for a moment. Then he smiled. What were you doing at the hospital today? His question caught me off guard. I didn't know how to respond at first. Then I realized he might not actually care about what I was doing there. I looked at him. His smile was still there, always laid back and distant. I lowered my head and shook it lightly. I wasn't following you. I know, he said, lifting his hand to gently touch my cheek. You've always been good. I handpicked you. You wouldn't disappoint me. Yes, Louis had personally chosen me. Many families wanted to marry into his. Ours was the least advantageous, often called a small company worth only 2 or 3 billion. But Louis chose me because I was obedient, had no temper, and wouldn't dare question him. Even after marriage, he remained as free as ever. This marriage was just a formality for his family, but a lifeline for my family's business. I needed Louis. More precisely, my parents needed Louis for our company. My family got what they wanted, and it seemed Louis was also satisfied with me. I'm going to sleep now, I said with a forced smile. A moment later, I heard Louis's footsteps leaving the room. I curled up in bed, feeling cold. My eyelids grew heavy, and I started to drift off. I suddenly felt someone embrace me. A slightly cool hand rested on my abdomen. It was Louis. I woke up immediately and instinctively held his hand. I'm not feeling well today. Where does it hurt? He asked, his voice husky. I couldn't help but shrink back. Images of Louis and Wendy together flashing in my mind. Her pregnant belly made me feel a surge of repulsion. I really don't feel well. Not tonight, I pleaded. Louis's hand remained on my belly. He held me quietly, then tightened his grip and said, just sleep. Since we got married, whenever he stayed the night, he would hold me as we slept. At first, I foolishly thought it was a sign of his love, but after seeing him with Wendy at the hospital, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I couldn't understand. If he loved Wendy so much, why did he marry me? If he loved Wendy so much, why did he hold me at night? I drifted off again. When I woke up the next time, the room was still dark, and Louis was gone. I checked my phone. It was already past 9. I took a hot shower, dried off, and put on warmer clothes before heading downstairs. The maid wasn't there, only the cleaner, Lee, was tidying up. She stopped her work and looked at me. "You're up. Do you want to eat now?" I nodded. In the open kitchen, Lee was busy for a while before calling me to eat. I sat at the kitchen island and filled my stomach, ready to go back to the room and rest. Just as I stood up, I heard a ding. The elevator doors opened and Louis' tall figure stepped out. I glanced over. He looked cold, staring at me intently as he walked my way. The pressure from his tall frame made me catch my breath. I looked up, meeting his gaze, wanting to ask what was wrong, but no words came out. "Where are you feeling unwell?" Louis suddenly asked. I instantly understood. He had gone to the hospital and found out everything. "Sonny, you've got some nerve." His deep voice sounded as if it came from the depths of the earth. I lowered my head, not sure what to say. I didn't even understand why he was so angry. Did he want me to keep the baby? I wouldn't allow my child to be born into a loveless and cold family. Louis grabbed my chin, lifting my head, so I had to look into his eyes. His usual charming eyes were filled with anger. He parted his thin lips and spoke deliberately. "Sonny, you aborted my child. Got anything to say?" Louis asked coldly. I opened my mouth, my dry throat managing only 2 words, "No." "Good." Louis released his grip, gave me a chilling look, then turned and left. I heard Lee gasp. When I slightly turned my head, she quickly avoided my gaze. I went upstairs to my room. Standing at the door of the large bedroom, I paused for a moment before I went to the walk-in closet to pack my things. There wasn't much to pack. Everything I used here was bought by Louis. He didn't even need to buy things himself. Items were delivered daily: clothes, shoes, jewelry. As the wife of a CEO, many brands were eager to send stuff. I packed the few things I owned into a suitcase, which ended up only half full. I sat on the sofa, staring at the suitcase in a daze. I knew I had caused trouble. Maybe I should call my dad and tell him I probably wouldn't be able to help the family business through its crisis. My parents would be very upset and sad. I don't know how much time passed before I heard Louis' mom's gentle voice outside. "Sonny." I hurried out. She saw me and quickly came over, holding my hand, concerned, and asked, "What happened?" "Did you?" The child. I didn't expect Louis to act so fast. "Mom, I'm sorry." Her brows furrowed. "How could this happen?" "Sonny, why didn't you say anything about something so big? You went to the hospital alone. Do you know that every surgery carries risks? What if something happened to you? How would I explain it to your parents?" "Mom, I'm sorry." Beyond that, I didn't know what to say. She sighed and pulled me back to the room. "Lie down and rest. You need to recover well after the surgery, or you might suffer long-term effects. Don't leave the house for half a month. I'll get the family cook to come over." Her attitude towards me hadn't changed a bit. She even let me stay to recuperate. I was a bit surprised and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Mom, what did Louis say?" I called him back, but he didn't answer. "I haven't seen him." She sighed. "Is something wrong between you two? It's only been a month since the wedding." "Mom, didn't Louis tell you?" She paused. "Lee told me." "So that's it." I was even more unsure about Louis' attitude. "Sonny, tell me, is something wrong between you and Louis? Is it him?" Louis' mom sighed again. "He likes to play around. I thought he would settle down after getting married. That brat." "Sonny, don't worry. Mom will teach him a lesson. You just rest and don't overthink things." I nodded. "Okay, thank you, Mom." She stayed with me until dark. She called Louis, urging him to come home, and left only after hanging up. Before leaving, she reminded me not to get upset and to call her if anything happened, not to argue with Louis. She must be very upset too, but I couldn't have the baby just because of her kindness and my gratitude towards her. A knock sounded, and without waiting for me to respond, Lee walked in with a tray. "This is chicken soup. Have some. I'll leave it here." I didn't say anything. Lee placed the soup on the nightstand, glanced at me, pursed her lips, and left. Since the day I arrived, I knew Lee didn't like or even look down on me. I didn't care. After all, she was just an outsider. What I cared about was Louis' attitude towards me. But now, I should let go. Some things aren't mine, no matter how hard I try to get them. So let go. Free Louis and free myself. After drinking the chicken soup, I took the bowl downstairs. The maid saw me and hurried up. "Why are you down here, young lady? You should be resting." She took the bowl from my hands. "Dinner is almost ready. Go upstairs and grab a coat." Lee was cleaning up. She glanced at me before continuing her work. I pulled my eyes away and smiled slightly at the maid. "I'm not cold." She looked down at my feet. "Put on socks. You don't want to catch a cold." "Okay." I paused. "Will Louis come home for dinner?" I called and asked. "Young master said you should eat first, not to wait for him." After saying that, she sighed. "It's normal. Louis is just mad right now. but he still cares about you. I actually didn't understand why Louis was so angry. Someone else was already giving him a child, wasn't he? Did he really love kids that much? I went back, put on socks, and came downstairs. The maid had already set the dinner on the island. I ate quietly alone. When I heard the elevator, I guessed Louis was back. Young master, the maid's voice was enthusiastic. You're back. Young lady just started eating. I'm not eating. Louis spoke coolly, then went upstairs. I heard the maid sigh again. She pitied me. I must look really pathetic. After dinner, I went upstairs to the room. Louis wasn't around, and I didn't look for him either. I washed up and went to bed. Louis didn't come in all night. The next morning, when I went downstairs, he was on the couch looking at his phone. When the maid spoke to me, he didn't even lift his head. When we were eating, he didn't say a word. After finishing, he just left. Shortly after he left, his mom and sister arrived. His sister was already 4 months pregnant. Her husband was away on a business trip, so she's been staying home lately. But how could she come over? Mom, did you tell her? I asked. My sister gave me a playful glance. I'm not that particular, but you, dealing with such a big thing all by yourself. You're really something now. Even though she sounded annoyed, she was full of concern and care. I lowered my head. Sis, you shouldn't have come. Although I don't believe in these things, they do matter to some. I might not care, but others do. My sister looked around. Where's Louis? Not home. He just went out. This brat. My sister took out her phone. I quickly raised my hand to stop her. Sis, he's busy. Plus, there's a nanny here. My mom, sitting on my other side, said, Sonny, have you told your parents about this? I paused for a moment and shook my head. She said, I think you should let them know. My sister nodded in agreement. I responded, I'll call them later. After chatting for a bit longer, I urged my sister to leave and come back another time. Once Louis' mom and sister left, I went back to my room and dialed my mom's number. Her reaction was just as I expected, scolding me over the phone about my big decisions and the potential consequences, quickly hanging up. In less than an hour, she and my dad arrived. Why did you do this? My mom's voice was both angry and heartbroken, her eyes wet. My dad sat silently by her side. My mom sat by my bed, holding my hand. Sonny, tell me honestly, are you being mistreated here? No, I smiled faintly. I knew it would be like this. Tears streamed down my mom's face as she tried to wipe them away, choking up. All for the family, you've endured so much. My dad sighed. In truth, I didn't feel mistreated. In fact, when I learned I could marry Louis, I was ecstatic, feeling like the luckiest person in the world. I liked Louis since middle school. Yes, from middle school to high school, Louis and I were always classmates. I had a crush on him for nearly 10 years. Wendy was our classmate too, so I knew very well that Louis liked Wendy. Back then, Wendy was the school beauty, and Louis the school hunk. Everyone thought they were a perfect match. I could only hide my feelings for Louis deep inside, telling no one. After high school, we went our separate ways. Louis and Wendy got accepted to the same university, and I heard they started dating. However, when it came time to choose a marriage partner, Louis chose me over Wendy. Was it just because I was obedient? But I always felt that this reason alone couldn't justify our marriage. Mom continued to blame Dad, saying he pushed me into a pit of fire. Stop, my dad interrupted angrily. Don't you think I care about my daughter too? He looked at me. Sonny, if you really feel unhappy here, just get a divorce and come home with us. Dad, but the company be damned. Tears welled up in my dad's eyes. Your mom's right. Your happiness is what matters most. I suddenly felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I smiled sincerely. Dad, Mom, really, I'm fine here. It's just that Louis doesn't love me. If he wants to divorce me and be with Wendy, I'll let him go. But if he doesn't bring it up, I'll keep this position as his wife. The company is Dad's hard work. I can't be so selfish, thinking only of myself. I felt relieved, not just because my parents eased the pressure, but also because I decided to let go. I don't want to love Louis anymore. Not loving him makes it easier. At noon, while eating with my parents, Louis returned. Seeing 2 additional people in the house, Louis paused slightly before walking over. You're here? Yeah, my dad responded coldly, no longer being cautious around Louis. My mom stayed silent, serving me vegetables. Sonny, eat more greens. After lunch, my parents prepared to leave. Before they left, my dad asked, Sonny, do you want to come home for a while? We can take better care of you. I was about to respond, but Louis spoke first. Mom, Dad, don't worry about Sonny here. I'll take good care of her. I swallowed my words. My dad looked at me, then nodded to Louis. Thank you, Louis. We'll be going now. Dad and Mom stepped forward, clearly wanting to say more, but they had already pressed the elevator button, and the doors closed. Louis turned to look at me, his deep gaze filled with emotions I couldn't read. I nodded at him slightly before turning to go upstairs to my room. Louis followed me closely, entering the room as well. He closed the door, sarcasm in his voice. "So you're playing the victim now? Telling your parents how I wronged you for you aborting our child? You're quite something." How could he think that? I turned around. I didn't. He sat on the couch, spreading his arms on the back, then explained to me, "What's going on?" "What do you mean? What do your parents mean?" "Mom said this should be told to my parents, so I did. They just came to check on me," I calmly explained. Louis didn't seem like he wanted to end the conversation. He looked at me with interest, a mocking smile in his eyes. "Didn't they say anything else?" "They did. They said we could get a divorce." I chose to lie a little, nothing special, just for me to take care of myself. Louis raised an eyebrow. "Really? Then take good care of yourself." I glanced at him again, then walked toward the bed. Louis grabbed the remote and closed the curtains. The thick curtains shrouded the room in darkness. I heard the rustling of footsteps, then felt the bed dip beside me as Louis lay down. He hugged me from behind. I felt my body stiffen slightly. He must have felt it too, asking coldly, "What's wrong?" I closed my eyes. Nothing. A large hand landed on my lower abdomen. His palm touched my skin directly. It was warm. I had no idea what he was trying to do. He rubbed there for a while and then suddenly asked me, "Does it hurt?" Instantly, memories of lying on the operating table flashed back. The surgery was painless, didn't hurt much. Losing a child didn't really make me sad. After all, it was just an undeveloped embryo. "It doesn't hurt," I murmured. Louis stopped talking. I wasn't that sleepy, but his embrace made my eyelids heavy. Not sure when, I fell asleep. I was woken up by the sound of a vibrating phone. Louis cursed quietly, loosened his grip on me slightly, and answered the call, sounding a bit impatient. "Hello," I heard a woman's voice. It sounded like Wendy. I woke up immediately. I couldn't hear what Wendy said to Louis clearly. He responded a few times and then hung up, cradling the phone in one hand and holding me with the other. After a while, Louis got out of bed and said, "Stay here by yourself. I need to go out." Was he going to see Wendy? I closed my eyes and told myself, "Don't think about it. Don't like him." Self-hypnosis worked quite well. At least I didn't feel so bad. Louis came back after 5, carrying a big bag, and handed it to the nanny. "For tonight," he said. I felt bored in the room, so I went downstairs to watch TV. The nanny looked into the bag, answered loudly, "Got it." She smiled at me and went into the kitchen. I was a bit confused. Lee met Louis and took his coat. "You're back. What do you want for dinner?" Louis looked straight at me, handed his coat to Lee, and then came over to sit next to me. He even smiled. "The doctor said you can't lie in bed all day. Tomorrow, I'll take you back to the villa. It's big there, you should walk around, but you can't go outside and catch wind." His sudden change in attitude caught me off guard. So, he wasn't angry anymore. I shook my head. "No need. I can walk around here, upstairs and downstairs." Louis stared at my face. I felt uneasy. "What?" I asked. He smiled. "Just checking your complexion. It's much better, not as pale." What was with him? Not only had his attitude changed, but he also came back early, even during noon. I couldn't help but ask, "Isn't your company busy?" No idea how, but he seemed to sense my unease, and his friendly smile faded. "Busy? Of course, it's busy. You just got off the operating table. I need to stay home to take care of you." It was still about me. His words felt a bit sarcastic. I forced a smile. "No need. The nanny can handle it." Louis didn't respond, but he did stay home every day for a while. He wasn't as distant as before. Sometimes he got calls and stepped out for a bit, probably to see Wendy. Mom insisted I stay home for a whole month before I could go out. I went home first chance I got, but Mom was still worried, asking if I felt any discomfort, saying she'd take me to the hospital later. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Mom, I'm really fine. Not a bit uncomfortable." The doctor checked on me. "I'm going to buy a chicken. It's nutritious," Mom said as she headed out. I quickly followed. "I'll come too." On the way, I asked, "Is Dad really busy lately?" That month, Mom visited me regularly. Dad was always tied up with company stuff. Mom nodded. "You know him. He's invested most of his life in the company. Almost wants to live there." I lowered my head, staying silent. "Don't overthink it," Mom said gently. "Dad also said if you really don't want to stay with Louis, even if it means the company is gone, he won't let you suffer." I smiled and nodded. I know. I haven't felt wronged, really. I felt great now. Letting go brings ease. It's an eternal truth. Dad knew I was home and returned around 5. At dinner, Dad suddenly asked, "Sonny, have you thought about the divorce?" I paused, surprised at Dad's insistence on the matter. Louis's voice rang out. Turning, I saw Louis coming over. He stood tall, exuding a powerful presence and a sense of oppression. Always smiling, his handsome face had a lazy, wicked grin, never reaching his eyes. He seemed to look down on everything and everyone. He pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. Dad, Mom. My parents nodded and asked if he had eaten. Not yet, Louis replied. He turned to the nanny. Bring me a set of utensils. Then he turned to me and asked, why didn't you tell me you were coming home? I opened my mouth, but Louis continued, who were you thinking of divorcing? He heard it. Still smiling, his eyes grew colder. I didn't know how to respond. Dad sighed and said, Sonny's mom and I agree. If you don't like Sonny, and you're both unhappy, you should get a divorce. As for the company, I'm getting old anyway. Let it be. Mom nodded. There was a fleeting shadow on Louis's face. Then he chuckled. How can we be unhappy? Aren't you happy with me, honey? I forced a smile. My parents are just concerned about me, afraid I might suffer. Let's eat. The nanny brought the utensils. The dining table was quiet. My mom kept putting food on my plate, telling me to eat more. My dad smiled politely at Louis. Louis, you should eat more too. Louis chuckled like he had heard a funny joke. Dad, a son-in-law is like half a son. Why are you being so polite to me? We're all family here. My dad just smiled. It was clear that because of my abortion, my parents thought my marriage with Louis was unhappy. They weren't trying so hard to please Louis anymore. But Louis, every word he said felt sarcastic to me. Son-in-law is half a son. We're all family. He didn't used to talk like that. I really didn't understand what he meant. Around 7, Louis and I started heading back. We didn't say a word the whole way. Once in the elevator, Louis suddenly spoke. What do you mean? I was slightly stunned and looked at him, confused. What? Louis gave a cold laugh. You don't want to manage your family's company anymore. My heart skipped a beat. That's right. My marriage was a trade for the bright future of my family's company. Louis was reminding me and mocking me. Marrying him wasn't up to me, neither was divorce. I knew this. I had always known it. I didn't want a divorce. Louis squinted his eyes. If you don't want a divorce, then put away your grievances. I don't want my parents to misunderstand. The elevator doors opened. Louis stepped out first. Lee immediately came up, eagerly and proactively taking Louis's coat. I looked away and headed towards the stairs. Louis's irritated voice suddenly rang out. Did you not see that the young lady is back? I was startled. Lee was also startled. She blinked for about 2 seconds, then immediately walked over to me, her voice trembling. Young lady, you're back. Yeah, I just responded lightly and went upstairs. Just as I took off my coat, Louis came in. I didn't look at him and took my coat to the closet. Louis followed me in, pointing at the suitcase I had packed earlier. He asked coldly, what's this? Where do you think you're going? That was nearly a month ago. I thought he would be angry after I aborted the child and want a divorce, so I prepared it in advance. But he didn't, and my resolve to divorce wasn't so strong. I couldn't be that selfish and neglect my family's company. I went over to open the suitcase and started taking things out. I was planning to stay at home for a while. Louis didn't say anything. I put my things back, then turned to meet his gaze. Maybe we should talk. Louis, I know our marriage is just a business deal. It's you feeling sorry for my family, and I'm very grateful. I also know my family's company relies on you, so I know my place. Don't worry, as long as you don't bring up divorce, I won't think about it again. So you're admitting that you thought about divorce before? Yes, but now I've figured it out. I took a deep breath, smiling slightly. The reason I aborted the child is because I don't think a child should be born into a loveless family, and also because of you and Wendy. I bit my lip and spoke my mind. I admit that I was really bothered by you liking Wendy before, but I won't be anymore. I promise you, I won't care in the future. If you need me to continue being your wife, I'll do my best. If you want to be with Wendy, I'll wish you two a long and happy life together. The choice has always been yours. Louis's expression grew darker, as cold as water under ice. You wish me a long and happy life with another woman. Sonny, you're something else. I truly married the right person. Every man in the world will envy me for having such an obedient and sweet wife. I could hear the sarcasm in his tone. But, isn't this what you wanted? Didn't you marry me because I'm obedient? Louis gritted his teeth and then turned and left. I walked out of the closet, returning to the bedroom to call my dad and tell him I wanted to work at the company. My dad immediately agreed. All right, I'll arrange it for you tomorrow. After hanging up, I went to read. As it got close to 10, I was about to go wash up when the housekeeper came in, looking anxious. Sonny, Louis drank a lot of alcohol. He's downstairs calling your name. I was puzzled. How could that be? But I still went down. Lee's anxious voice came from downstairs. You better come quickly. Louis has been calling your name. I stopped, looking at the housekeeper. He's calling for Wendy, right? It can't be for me. The housekeeper looked upset and hurried downstairs to scold Lee. What's wrong with you? You're inviting another woman here. Lee replied confidently, but Wendy isn't an outsider. After she said that, she looked at me arrogantly. Sonny, this house is Louis'. I have to listen to him. If he calls for Wendy, I can only call Wendy. I didn't do anything wrong. You shut up, the housekeeper shouted. I didn't say anything, just turned and went back. Since he was calling for Wendy, it had nothing to do with me. At that moment, I felt very calm. Although a bit bitter, I could suppress it. This was a good start for a fresh beginning. I didn't know if Wendy came, but I went to sleep. Drowsily, I felt someone holding me tightly. I woke up with a start. I broke free from the hand around my waist, got up to turn on the light, and saw Louis next to me. He seemed to have trouble adjusting to the light, squinting his eyes. What are you doing? I asked coldly. Louis sobered up a bit. Sleeping, what else? A tide of disgust rose in me. I frowned and stepped off the bed. Louis quickly followed and grabbed my wrist. What are you doing? Calmly, I said. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. Louis tightened his grip on my wrist. Sonny, what are you trying to do? I could accept him liking Wendy, him being with Wendy, but I couldn't accept him coming to touch me after being with Wendy. It made me feel sick. I shook off his hand and walked towards the door. Louis chased after me again. I couldn't take it anymore. I had completely lost my patience with him. I looked up to meet his gaze. Louis, I don't like you anymore. Let's get a divorce. Louis's expression froze. What did you say? I said, let's get a divorce. You like me? He took a step forward, looking desperate. Sonny, you like me? I paused and couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, I liked you, from middle school until about a month ago. But now, I don't like you anymore. If you're willing to continue helping our family's company, thank you. I'll do my best to repay you. If not, that's fine too. I can handle any consequences, and I think my parents can too. With that, I stepped past him, but my wrist was grabbed again. My impatience was at its peak. I couldn't help but yell at him. What do you want? Louis's eyes were deep. Do you really like me? Do you not understand what I just said? Then why don't you like me anymore? His question was really funny. Why should I like you? Louis fell silent. I pulled my hand away and walked out. Behind me, Louis's low voice echoed. I won't divorce you. Whatever. I went to the guest room to continue sleeping. Since he wouldn't divorce, it meant our family's company wouldn't be in trouble for now. I knew my abilities were limited, but I still wanted to try my best to help my dad completely get the company back on track, so we wouldn't have to rely on Louis's help anymore. The next morning, when I went downstairs, Louis was sitting at the island counter, looking at his laptop. He turned his head when he heard me. I was unsure of his attitude towards me. After all, I had a rare outburst last night, and he must have been surprised. Maybe after thinking all night, he also wanted a divorce. Just as I hesitated whether to approach him, Louis spoke first. Breakfast's ready. I walked over and sat down. Only Lee was there. Where's the maid? I asked. The maid had some issues last night and went home, Louis replied, pushing a cup of coffee towards me. I couldn't understand nor was interested in his actions now. Louis looked at me. Why are you dressed so formally today? I'm going to work at our family's company today. Louis gave a faint smile. All right. Also think about where we should go for our honeymoon. Honeymoon? I looked at him in surprise. You and me? Louis seemed amused by my question. Who else? You're my wife. If I don't go on a honeymoon with you, then who? I glanced at Lee. Lee immediately lowered her head and continued her work. I didn't say anything, just continued eating breakfast, feeling inexplicably emotional. After breakfast, Louis insisted on driving me to the company. I didn't really want to be in the same car with him, so I politely declined. I have to take a cab back after work. Let me know half an hour before you get off work, and I'll pick you up, Louis said, gesturing for me to get in the car. Too tired to argue, I got in. I spent the ride looking out the window while Louis remained silent. Once the car stopped at the company entrance, I got out, with Louis's voice trailing behind me. After work, I didn't listen to the rest as I walked into the company. My dad asked how things were with Louis, and I chose to tell the truth, saying that Louis refused to divorce. I could see a sense of relief in my dad's expression. He really cared about the company, but I also knew if I insisted on a divorce, he would support my decision. Dad, is there really no other option for the company besides relying on Louis? I asked, unwilling to give up. My dad sighed deeply. For now, it's the only way, the safest and easiest way. In other words, no matter how hard I tried, my efforts for the company couldn't compare to a single word from Louis. I understood. I wanted to get familiar with the company's current business first. Then I got a call from Wendy, asking to meet. What's the matter? I asked. Wendy was silent for a moment. It's about Louis. Can we talk in person? Whatever issues you have, talk to him. I'm busy right now. I'll wait for you, Wendy interrupted. Whenever you're free, let's talk. Fine, I said, hanging up and getting back to my work. Around 6, Louis called, asking when I'd be off, so he could pick me up. Thinking of Wendy, I turned him down. No need, I have something to do. I'll come back later. After leaving the company, I went to the cafe where Wendy and I agreed to meet. I got straight to the point. What do you want to say? Wendy looked down at her belly, then up at me. Sonny, can you let Louis go for me? I paused. Why are you telling me this? Wendy looked sorrowful. Because as long as you're around, Louis will never be with me. I think you misunderstand. The obstacle between you two isn't me. I can divorce Louis anytime. If you want to be with him, go talk to him. I stood up. I've made myself clear. I don't think we need to meet in private again. Giving her a nod, I left. When I got back to the new house, Louis was sitting on the sofa. The maid and Lee were not around. I still glanced at him lightly and walked upstairs. Stop, Louis's deep voice called out. I turned my head. What is it? He slowly got up and walked over. His tall frame shadowed the light above me, casting a slight darkness in front of my eyes. Louis's gaze was sharp and cold. Sonny, explain what you meant by I can divorce you anytime. After a pause, I realized Wendy had told him what I said earlier. She worked fast. Just what I said. So, you've been wanting to divorce me? No, I answered honestly. But if you want a divorce, I'll respect your choice. You really are the wife I personally picked. Louis sneered coldly. I didn't want to argue, so I started towards the stairs. Louis grabbed my wrist and pulled me back. He held me tightly, leaning down to kiss me, blocking my words. I struggled hard, but my strength was no match for his. With a few steps, Louis pressed me against the wall, taking my breath away like a storm. It hurt. He pinned my hands above my head, pressing them against the wall. His thin lips parted, and he spoke with a harsh, unclear voice. Sonny, put those thoughts away. Don't let me hear those two words ever again. I need him in the groin. Louis let go of me and stepped back, dodging the blow. He chuckled lightly. So ruthless. You don't care about me, but don't you care about your own happiness? I took a deep breath. Louis, I don't know what you're thinking, or why you won't agree to a divorce. That's fine, but I have one condition. What condition? Don't touch me. And from now on, let's avoid being in the same room. Louis frowned. We're married, but I don't want it, and you can't force me. You don't want it, Louis repeated. Go find Wendy, I said and turned to go upstairs. What does Wendy have to do with this? Louis growled. I didn't respond, just went straight to the guest room. After about an hour, there was a knock at the door, and then Louis came in. Dinner's ready. I put down the folder and got up to leave. Louis followed closely. I could hear his footsteps behind me. The housekeeper and Lee weren't around, leaving just 2 bowls of noodles for dinner. Seemed like Louis prepared it himself. I didn't even know he could cook. The noodles were pretty good. We didn't say a word while eating. He ate slowly. I finished first and went to wash my bowl, then returned to my room. Louis didn't bother me for the rest of the night. That was better. The next morning when I came downstairs, the housekeeper and Lee were there, but Louis was not. I didn't ask and just sat at the island. The housekeeper fetched my breakfast while Lee muttered discontentedly, because of you, this house is falling apart. How can you still eat? I turned to look at her, and Lee immediately lowered her head, pretending to be busy. What did you just say? I asked coldly. Lee didn't answer, but looked obviously dissatisfied. I continued staring at her. Louis won't divorce me, which means I'm still the mistress of this house. You have no place to speak. Lee bit her lower lip but said nothing. I don't need you here. You can leave. The housekeeper served breakfast, and I picked up the chopsticks. Lee strode over, asking in disbelief, what did you say? Without looking at her, I replied, you're fired. You don't have the authority to fire me. Lee cried, pack your stuff and leave, immediately. Lee didn't move, but took out her phone to call for help, sobbing, come back quickly, there's a problem. When Louis returned, I had just finished eating. He walked over briskly, a bit out of breath. Sonny, what's going on? I looked at Lee with cold eyes. Lee continued to sob and accuse me. Louis, she's firing me. She keeps saying she's the mistress here and completely ignores you. Louis's gaze on me flickered with something, and he slowly turned to Lee. What did you say? Lee repeated herself. Louis's whole demeanor chilled. So, where exactly do you think she's wrong? Lee paused. Do you want to leave on your own, or should I have you thrown out? Louis asked in a cold voice. Lee's eyes widened in disbelief. But Wendy said. Louis cut her off. What does this have to do with Wendy? His voice turned irritable. Lee flinched, and the housekeeper urged her to pack up. In the end, Lee left in tears. Apparently, Lee was on Wendy's side, which explained why she disliked me so much. Honestly, I didn't care to deal with her or Louis and Wendy's issues. I just wanted my company to thrive independently. I went upstairs to change before heading out, and Louis was still there. He approached me, his voice low. "I'll drive you." "No need." I walked towards the elevator. Suddenly, Louis grabbed my wrist, pulling me back. "What do you want?" he asked, almost growling. I looked at him calmly. "I want nothing." His teeth gritted. "You want a divorce that badly? Sonny, is this your plan? Turning the tables on me?" He laughed bitterly. I didn't want to argue. It seemed pointless. "Let go. I need to go to work." For the last time, he tightened his grip on my wrist. "I won't divorce you, ever. Don't even think about it. Do as you like. You don't need to tell me this." I pulled my hand free and stepped into the elevator. Louis turned to watch me. The elevator doors closed slowly. I exhaled, feeling dazed. How did Louis and I end up like this? I was so exhausted and annoyed. Not annoyed with Louis, but with this tangled relationship between me, Louis, and Wendy. While I was in a meeting at the company, I got a call from Lee. She said, "I'm jobless because of you. You have to take responsibility for that." I found it amusing and hung up immediately. I never imagined she would cause a scene at my workplace. Helpless, I went down to meet her. In the cafe next to the office, I sat across from Lee. "I fired you because you bother me. If you feel unjust, go sue me. But I'm here today to warn you. Don't cause trouble at my workplace again, or you'll be the one receiving a summons." After saying my piece, I stood to leave, but Lee called out louder, "Sonny, you shameless woman." Everyone in the cafe turned to look at me. Lee continued shouting, "Louis loves Wendy. They belong together. You're the intruder. You ruined them. You'll get what you deserve." I turned, picked up my glass of water, and splashed it on Lee's face. "If you say one more word, I'll call the police right now." Lee fell silent, but things escalated beyond my expectation. A video of Lee cursing me as a mistress went viral online, and I became a hot topic, though for all the wrong reasons. Suddenly, I was bombarded with insults. My mom called, asking what happened. My dad came to my office, questioning why things turned out this way. "Yeah, why did it turn out like this? It was all Louis's fault." Videos online disappeared quickly, as if some mysterious power had removed them. At that moment, another video appeared, featuring an interview with Wendy. In the video, reporters surrounded Wendy tightly. "Wendy, is the baby in your belly Louis? Did Sonny really break up your relationship with Louis? What do you have to say about Sonny and Louis?" Wendy protected her belly, shying away from the cameras. "I have nothing to say. If Sonny truly likes Louis, then I'll let her have him. Will you bless them?" the reporter asked. Wendy burst into tears. I closed my eyes and shut off the video. It was so annoying. I grabbed my bag and left. As soon as I stepped out of the office, insults started flying at me, and eggs were hurled at me like rain. One egg hit me square in the eye. Instinctively, I closed my eyes and someone pushed me to the ground. "Shameless, despicable." They continued cursing until an angry voice suddenly shouted, "What are you doing? Stop it right now." I barely opened my eyes and saw the crowd scatter. Louis ran over, helped me up, and gently wiped my eyes with a handkerchief. "Are you hurt?" His voice was low but filled with concern. I brushed his hand away and looked at him coldly. "I had the video taken down, including Wendy's interview," he said, grabbing my arm. "Let's go to the hospital." "Don't touch me." I pushed him away. "It's none of your business." "Let's go to the hospital," Louis said again, grabbing my arm. I pushed him away again. This time, he directly picked me up and put me in his car. I didn't resist anymore. We arrived at the hospital. My elbow was bruised and the back of my hand had a scrape, but nothing serious. The doctor treated the wounds quickly. Leaving the hospital, Louis said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." I stayed silent and got into the car. Louis got in too and suddenly asked, "Do you think the baby Wendy's carrying is mine?" "Isn't it? Whether it is or isn't doesn't matter to me anymore." That day in the hospital, it was a coincidence, Louis explained awkwardly. My brother-in-law was on a business trip, and I was helping my sister get some folic acid. He paused before continuing, "I don't like Wendy. I never have." During school, our interactions were limited to various activities and competitions. I knew that Louis and Wendy were good students, often representing the school in various events. But saying he never liked Wendy still surprised me. Everyone at school said he liked Wendy. Louis seemed to read my mind and answered my unspoken question. The rumors that I liked Wendy were started by her. I was too lazy to explain. He paused again. "I didn't even know you liked me. You never showed it or told me. I thought you had no feelings for me." I looked out the window, forcing myself not to look at him. None of it mattered to me anymore. I felt free, no longer burdened by unrequited love. Whoever he liked or dated didn't concern me anymore. I truly felt lighter. The car stopped in front of my new apartment. Louis and I went inside. As soon as we got out of the elevator, the housekeeper greeted us. "What happened? Why are you covered in egg? Quick, wash up. I'll run a bath for you." "Thanks." I went with the housekeeper. I washed for over an hour until the smell of egg was finally gone. Louis opened the door and walked in. I glanced at him from the corner of my eye. "This is my room. Please leave." He kept walking towards me. I stood up to leave, and as I passed by him, he grabbed my wrist. "This is your house. If you want this room, I'll give it back to you. I'll move out." "I like you." Louis cut me off. His confession caught me completely off guard. "You like me?" "Yes." He looked into my eyes intently. "I've liked you since middle school." I still couldn't believe it. This couldn't be real. Louis seemed to sense my disbelief. He smiled bitterly. "I've never liked anyone else, or pursued anyone. People always crowded around me, but you always stayed far away. At first, I wanted to be good to you, but over time, I got discouraged. You were too cold." I remembered it now. There was a time when Louis was very nice to me, always around me, showing up unexpectedly. His eyes always held a smile when he called my name. "Sonny, why don't you talk to me? Can I call you Sonny? I'll buy you ice cream. What flavor do you like? Here's your first cup of fall tea. Sonny, come cheer me on at my basketball game tomorrow. Sonny, what kind of guys do you like? I'll introduce you. Sonny, what's so special about you?" Back then, I really liked him, but the closer he got, the more scared I was of exposing my feelings. My parents and the school forbade dating, and Louis was so outstanding. The girls around him were pretty and exceptional, while I was nothing. So, I forced myself to be cold to him. Eventually, he stopped bothering with me. Memories flooded in. I closed my eyes, trying to shut them out. Louis swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. "You said you liked me. Was it a lie?" "I never felt it, not even a little. If you had shown it, even a little, I would have let you know how much I liked you, for all these years." His voice was trembling slightly. "I tried to force myself not to think about you, but when my mom showed me some photos during the marriage arrangement, I couldn't help but think of you. The person I want to spend my life with is only you. So even though you weren't in any of the photos, I still said your name." He chuckled bitterly. "You agreed to marry me, but you're still so cold. I really want to ask you, what's so great about you? I'm so good. Why don't you pay attention to me? Even when you saw me at the hospital, you didn't ask why I was there or if I was sick. But I worry about you. I want to ask you why you never see me in your eyes. Sonny, why is that? Is this what you call liking me?" He questioned me, full of dissatisfaction and anger. "You don't even want to have kids with me, Sonny. Why? Can you tell me?" He said so many things all at once. It was too much information for me to process, and my head was spinning. It took me a while to react. Louis took a deep breath and asked me expectantly, "Do you really like me?" I just stared at him. It took a long time for my brain to start working again. "I thought you liked Wendy. I thought her kid was yours." Louis sneered. "You didn't even ask me. You just assumed her kid was mine. So you gave up on our child, right?" Something blew up in my mind. If what he said was true, then my child. I needed some time alone. I locked myself in my room and stared out the window. I didn't know how long it had been when Louis came in. I looked at him and realized my vision was blurry. I was already in tears. He squatted in front of me and held my hand. "Sonny, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I should have told you earlier that I liked you. Then none of this would have happened. Maybe we would have been together by now." I tried to speak, but my throat was burning with pain. It took a while before I could make a sound. "I thought you married me because I was obedient and wouldn't interfere with you being with Wendy. I've told you, it's all my fault." He gently wiped my tears away. "I was too proud to let you know I liked you. I didn't want you to look down on me. The thought of you hating me made me say those things to upset you. I'm sorry, Sonny." I shook my head. "We both made mistakes." Louis held my hand tightly. "You said you don't like me anymore. Is that true?" I paused for a moment and nodded. Disappointment flashed across Louis's face, but he quickly smiled again. "It's okay. I'll wait for you until you love me again." "That's not what I meant." My throat was dry, and I swallowed hard. "Louis, my head is a mess right now. Give me some time." "Okay. I want to move out. Living here, I can't think clearly or figure out my feelings for him." Louis's face darkened. "Can't you think about it here? How can I think with you here? What's there to think about?" Louis stood up, his attitude changing completely, back to his usual arrogance. "I've cleared up the misunderstanding. You made things up in your head. Why can't you like me like before? Sonny, do you really like me? Was he just acting earlier? This is his true self." Louis gritted his teeth. "You can stay here and think if you want, but moving out is out of the question. He said that and left. In the evening, my mom and sister came over. Sonny, Louis explained everything. Since you both like each other, just live a good life together, Mom coaxed. What do you think? My sister chimed in, yeah, he was just getting folic acid for me that day. Your brother-in-law wasn't around, so I often asked him for help. Are you blaming me? Of course not, I quickly denied. Thinking back, Wendy called Louis that day, and he left after messing with his phone for a bit. It must have been my sister's message, not Wendy. It was all a misunderstanding, but still, I was annoyed with him those days and genuinely didn't want to like him. That feeling hasn't gone away yet. I don't really want to be with him right now. I just want to live alone for a while, give myself some time and space to think about our relationship. I told my mom and sister how I felt. My sister nodded in agreement and then called Louis over. Let Sonny move out. She'll come back once she's sorted things out. Louis's face was cold. No way. Mom picked up a cushion and hit him. Feeling bold now, huh? You don't listen to your sister or your wife. Are you trying to defy everyone? Mom, Louis growled. He suddenly grabbed my wrist and dragged me upstairs, and neither Mom nor my sister could catch up. Louis pulled me into his room and locked the door. Sonny, I'm telling you for the last time, you can forget about moving out. Either think about it here, or there's no need for a break. I'm not divorcing you over my dead body. If you try to leave, I'll lock you up in here for the rest of your life. Mom and my sister were banging on the door, telling Louis to let me out. Louis got agitated. What else do you need to think about? I'll treat you well from now on and do whatever you say. Isn't that enough? Do you want me to get on my knees? He asked, then kneeled before I could respond. Fine, I'll kneel. Before I could say anything, Louis lifted his pants and knelt down on both knees before me. He looked up at me. Are you satisfied now? Sonny, I don't care about my pride anymore. If you still want to leave, I'll stay here on my knees. If I get injured, you'll have to take care of me for the rest of my life. I was both angry and amused, and my heart ached. Mom and my sister had gone quiet. I sighed deeply. Get up. You won't leave, and I'll get up. I had no choice but to agree. Fine, I won't leave. Louis paused, seemingly thinking about something. He suddenly asked tentatively, then can we not be apart? If you don't agree to my terms, I won't get up. It's not about using new tactics. As long as it works, it's fine. Louis had fully mastered this move. Don't push your luck. Louis shifted his gaze elsewhere. Fine, then I won't get up. I'll just kneel here. Get up. I tugged at his arm. Who would have thought this rascal would take the opportunity to kiss me? By the time I went downstairs again, it was already dark. Mom and my sister had left. I collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. Louis, on the other hand, looked rejuvenated like a spirit who'd absorbed some life force. He had just a towel around his waist and went straight to the kitchen. He even started humming a tune. I knew why he was so happy. Just now, in bed, I couldn't take it anymore and admitted I still liked him. But it was him who forced it out of me with his sneaky tricks. I gave him a sideways glare at his back, but couldn't help but smile. It felt good, really, and I felt much more at ease. Honestly, there's no need to overthink it. I didn't want to like him, but how could I just stop liking him on a whim? But this time, it's because he likes me too that I like him. Now, Louis and I are equals. During dinner, Louis said to me, I won't brag anymore. From now on, I'll be good and listen to you. I'll behave. So, he used to say he married me because I was well behaved, but it was all just bragging. How did I end up liking someone like this? Wendy asked to meet me again. I honestly had nothing to say to her, so I refused. I called to apologize to you. Wendy cut in before I could hang up. I'm sorry, Sonny. I knew she wasn't genuinely apologizing. Louis had probably put her up to it. And then there's Lee. She wanted to apologize too, but I rejected her as well. I won't forgive Lee, but I've decided to let it go. I won't let them occupy my thoughts anymore. I'm just going to live my life well. Louis and I are officially together, and we even went on a honeymoon. Our family's company is doing better and better with Louis's help. Of course, it also couldn't have improved without my own efforts. I'll continue working hard for the company, but it won't be to distance myself from Louis anymore. Everything I do now is for myself. Louis supports me in this too. He even said to me, honey, work hard and take care of me in the future. Honestly, Louis is cuter when he's being a bit childish and cheeky. Thinking back, the very first Louis the first met was like this. It's my own fault for not appreciating it. Luckily, cute Louis has come back.